Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. In my current exile, it is difficult for me to comment on current motorsporting news. By the time I'm able to record something, the news has likely passed, been covered to death and forgotten like one of the weaker Beatles singles. Nothing is stopping me from recounting stories from motorsport past, and I feel like it's time for another bad team beatdown. In the past, we have looked at Andrea Moda, Colony, Eurobrunn and Leighton House. As bad as these teams were, they at least got cars in Formula 1. But what about some of the entries that never made it? Throughout Formula 1's history, there has been many aborted entries into Formula 1, including big manufacturers like Alpine in the 60s and Honda in the 90s. But there are also the interesting cases of non-manufacturer-backed teams, and that is what we are looking at today. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and let's see what happened to the Stefan Grand Prix Formula 1 team entry. Might be jumping in early with this, but Stefan F1 is possibly the worst team name ever. It's just a name. And I know names make for good team names. Ferrari, Tyrrell, Brabham, McLaren, Ligier, Williams are all names, but they are last names, and in many cases, the last names of people who have been established in the industry. Calling your team Stefan is the same as calling it Stephen, or Dave, or Kevin, and no one wants to race for Team Kevin. Theodore Racing are the only first name race team that almost gets away with it, and frankly, trying to convince Teddy Yip of anything seemed like a waste of time. He's sort of a special case. That side note aside, Stefan Grand Prix isn't a first name at all. Stefan Grand Prix is the brainchild of Serbian engineer and businessman Zoran Stefanovic. See, Stefanovic, Stefan GP, not sure why he dropped the Ovic. Can't be because of sponsorship reasons, because I'm not entirely sure he ever had any. Zoran Stefanovic had been trying to get an all-Serbian team into Formula 1 for the last 30 years with no success. So, who is Zoran Stefanovic? He owns a Serbian company called Amco Corporacija, a research and technology company based in the Serbian capital of Belgrade. Zoran was himself a race driver in his native Serbia and Eastern and Central Europe. A massive fan of motorsport, Zoran Stefanovic began his attempt at entering an all-Serbian Formula 1 team back in 1996. Although this attempt looks entirely speculative, no mention of assets, sponsors or anything like a concrete plan, Bernie Eccleston was apparently contacted but no meeting was arranged. Maybe there was a plan to buy the F1 remains of Pacific, Simtek or 40, which didn't happen. But Stefanovic did make a bid for the failed Lola MasterCard team and their assets with a plan to enter the 1999 season. He was unsuccessful, but this attempt was taken seriously. I think Bernie Eccleston did meet with Zoran Stefanovic and also the Serbian Prime Minister of the time, Mirko Marjanovic, to confirm the Serbian government's intentions to, in part, fund and support Stefan GP. From there, I don't know what happened. Maybe a price couldn't be agreed with Lola for their cars. Maybe other sponsors and sources of finance couldn't be found. Whatever it was, Stefan GP went quiet for about a decade. Then, in 2009, BMW and Toyota decided to step away from Formula 1, following Honda out the door. That left some gaps on the Formula 1 grid, and so the FIA started the process of finding new teams. This was the best chance Stefan GP would have of getting on the grid, but they had to prove they deserved to be there. Over 15 other teams looking to join the grid. There were some big names looking to get on the grid: Lola, Dams, ProDrive, Entech, US F1, Epsilon Euskadi, March, Brabham, Team Superfund, MyF1Dream.com, RML, along with two different Lotus entries, one successful, and Virgin and Hispania. Not all attempted to join, but after the rather suspect vetting process, 3 teams were chosen. US F1, who went bust after allegations of mismanagement emerged, and the whole thing was seemingly a complete mess. Mana, who sold their naming rights to Virgin, and Campos, who would become Hispania and then HRT, before the 2010 season began. Tony Fernandez's Lotus team eventually replaced the US F1 outfit. Stefan GP, along with everyone else, would be unsuccessful in getting on the 2010 grid. Obviously, the process for choosing the teams was either very corrupt or completely botched. All 4 of the teams chosen would no longer exist by 2015. US F1 didn't even make it to the 2010 championship, killing Jose Maria Lopez's chances of racing in Formula 1. But given the performances of the 3 teams that did make it, maybe an early death wasn't a bad thing. ProDrive and Entech would make legal complaints, and honestly, they would have been better choices. Dams, Lola and Epsilon had better chances of survival. But what about Stefan GP? Did they have the backing, equipment or facilities to run a Formula 1 team? Apparently yes. I don't know if it was ever confirmed, but Zoran Stefanovic claimed to have purchased Toyota's aborted 2010 chassis and assets, even the Cologne headquarters Toyota used. This would be turned into the SF1, and apparently it was race ready, even booking a test until Bridgestone refused to supply tyres. They had some wind tunnels in Serbia. Stefanovic even brought a moving floor to make it compatible with their needs. Other aerodynamic and development equipment was already owned by Zoran's Amco Corporation, as they had dealings with aeronautical research amongst other things. A lot of drivers were linked with the seat. Jacques Villeneuve, Narain Kartikeyan, Pastor Maldonado were all given seat fittings at the Cologne headquarters, whilst Kazuki Nakajima is the only driver to actually drive the SO1. Karun Chandok was also contacted. Bertrand Baguette, Ralf Schumacher, Christian Klien, Takuma Sato, Adrian Valles and Alexandros Margaritos were all linked, even a fanciful link to Sebastian Loeb. Personally, I think Formula Renault 3.5 winner and former GP2 driver Milos Pavlovic, born in Belgrade, would have almost been guaranteed a seat with the all-Serbian team. The biggest issue with the Stefan Grand Prix entry was finances. The Amco Corporation was set up in 2008 and, according to available financial records, barely made any money. Zoran Stefanovic correctly claimed that this is somewhat the norm. The money would come from sponsors, drivers and probably the Serbian government, along with Zoran Stefanovic himself. I don't think Stefan GP could provide evidence of strong financial health, and yet HRT did. Zoran Stefanovic made a complaint to the EU, as well as bidding to enter the 2011 Formula 1 Championship. Obviously, he was not successful. Not much happened over the next few years. A half-hearted attempt by the dead Caterham team, and a more spirited attempt to enter between 2017 and 2019 with an Italian-based team. Neither attempt went further than talks. Another half-hearted attempt in 2022, with the FIA and FOMA making it difficult for General Motors and Andretti to join the grid. I doubt we'll ever see a hopeful outsider like Zoran Stefanovic on the grid. Maybe in the 70s and 80s, but not now. It's a shame, but we'll never know if an independently owned Serbian team could have survived in Formula 1. In conclusion, I do feel sorry for Zoran Stefanovic. He did his best to put his money where his mouth was and made all the right moves. The biggest issue is just how Formula 1 works in the modern era. The last great independent teams with an individual at the forefront died in 2005 with Jordan and Minardi. Even in 1996, they were a dying breed. I do believe that the fact the team was Serbian went against them. A lot was made of the seemingly amateurish website, as if just because a website wasn't up to scratch meant the Stefan Grand Prix team didn't have any money. Not that it just wasn't a priority. I partly agree that a good website would look better to potential sponsors. I don't think it should be a deal breaker. Zoran Stefanovic himself says it was an issue of the website translating from Serbian to English. No idea if that was true. The fact there are blogs from the time and statements from important people in Formula 1 that all repeatedly mention Serbia and a little bit of prejudice may have seeped in. I will cover the bids process for the 2010 season in another video because, well, mistakes were made. This was the sad story of Stefan Grand Prix and Zoran Stefanovic. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Would you have let Stefan GP onto the grid, or was Formula 1 better off without the Serbian team? Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll be back full time hopefully soon. Thank you for watching and have a good one.